The quickest way to tell if you're in resonance with something or not is the degree to which you can relax into the experience, and the degree to which you can relax into the centeredness of your own being. This is a word I've been really liking recently. Centeredness. And you can consider this in whatever you're doing. If you're reading a kind of book, if you're at your job, if you're with your partner or with a friend, you're heading somewhere, creating something, learning something, notice how if you just become conscious of it, there's a level to which you can relax into the experience. And it's not the kind of languid relaxing that might come with watching television or distracting yourself by smoking pot or drinking, something like that. That's kind of like you're not really relaxing into the experience, you're just removing the tensions through some outside mean. But obviously it doesn't last very long. And if you're watching television, that television episode is going to end. And if you're smoking a joint, that joint probably is going to end. But notice how the inexhaustible resource in yourself is just the degree to which you're resonant with something. Like if you could imagine a scenario right now where everything in your experience was going exactly the way that you desired it to go, exactly the way that you wanted. Like, let's say you are working on a project, you're creating a project, and you make a lot of progress with it. You feel like you've really hit the next frontier of it. You really understand like what it was that was blocking you, and you're glad because you persevered. So there's that sense of having gone through the trial and persevered. You recognize the next thing that you need to do, how it needs to look. And you feel like you've actually genuinely integrated the lesson, so you can take it towards the next project and you can apply it to the next stage of the project. And if you felt that, I'm sure you have at some point, smaller or bigger project, there's kind of like a sense of relief. It's like over the last however long you've been doing it, when there's that nagging sense of self-doubt, or that sense of maybe not quite knowing if it's going to be completed or not, or if you're going to get the result that you want with it, and then recognizing how it all just comes together and it does actually start to yield the result that you want, or you do feel like you've actually managed to get it where you're really happy with it. Notice that it's not just like there's an elevation and there's a sense of, okay, let's like move on to the next thing, or like it's not just like blowing up, like, sorry, itchy nose. Yeah, there might be a joyousness to getting that, and there might be kind of like a bubbling over and a sense of like sort of, yes, like I've done it. But notice that what's following that is always a sense of relief. Because when something has tension, I mean, you can't hold tension for that long. You can just try to do it with your hand, right? You can hold this tension, and yes, it allows you to bring it together and hold it and concentrate tension into a point. But then it's actually the relief that feels the best, right? It's the sense of being able to relax into the experience. So go ahead and imagine a scenario like that, where you do find that you're able to get exactly what you want out of the situation, and notice how there's that sense of relief, like it's finished. And that really comes from how resonant you are with what's happening in your experience, right? The fact that you've completed the project is resonant to you. It shows you that that's actually what you really wanted. That's actually what the desire really was in the circumstance. But then if you think about it, if you would sort of do a tally and get a big list and maybe even like a, like a pie chart, and then you were to tally up how much of your experience in your everyday do you actually feel a sense of relief, and are you actually able to relax into that centeredness and that being? Because when you get that achievement in the project, or when you're able to do the thing that you really want to do like that, notice how there is kind of a centeredness to it. It's like things feel like they're taken care of. and you've got this space, like you've somehow tuned into this more abundant reality space, right? But then obviously we'd want to ask ourselves at some level, how much of our time in general are we actually relaxing into this state of being? Like if it comes to the point where it's 7 o'clock at night and we just have a free evening, we're not going to go to bed for a few hours. Is it possible? How much of our being is actually relaxed? Or are we looking for a kind of a distraction? Or are we looking for something to dissolve those boundaries temporarily? Dissolve those frictions, temporarily. Or are we able to really put our energy into something where we're able to relax very deeply into that centeredness in our being? There's just that sense of being able to allow life to unfold the way that it's meant to. And that includes the outer circumstances, and it includes the subjective circumstances. It includes the fact that thoughts are happening right now. It includes the fact that feelings and sensations and a body is happening right now. And it's being able to recognize that all of that occurrence is taking place within awareness, that spacious awareness that is all abiding. Sometimes in Buddhism they call it calm abiding, this state. It's recognizing the underlying calm that sits behind all of experience or contains all of experience. So when you actually have... My dog is not calm abiding. When you actually have an experience that is within that field, so whatever it is, again, it's the project or that relationship or that thing. When you actually have that experience, notice how it's either a reflection of calm and a opportunity or a gateway to further relax into that being, into that freedom, that spaciousness, or it is an opportunity to build up more resistance and basically generate more karma. It's a scheme of some kind. If you've ever heard, what's his name, Frederick Dodson, he's a really interesting speaker. If you've ever heard him speak about his metaphor of, he says there are 3 ways you can basically go about something. There's relaxing into the stream, basically, and just allowing life to flow downstream, and this is the natural approach. There's riding the horse, so it's like you know what you want, you know where you want to go, and you're using momentum to get there, but it's still a natural trajectory. And then there's swimming upstream, swimming up against the current. And he says it's good for building strength. And I really like the way he mentions that. There's a sense of building strength, like holding a point of tension, like even working out, if you think about it. If you're lifting weights, what are you really doing when you're lifting weights? You're basically just holding a point of tension. The more weight that you're lifting and the longer you have that time under tension, you're contracting the muscle with that level of tension. And the idea is that that level of tension will split the muscle fibers more effectively and generate more growth over time when you replenish the protein nutrients. So it's good for that. But ultimately, if your body is, if your mind, your emotional system, if you are usually in a state of tension and you're not usually in a state of calm abiding, then it's pretty easy to realize that you're not usually in a state of resonance. And I don't want you to just take my word for this. I want you to be able to experience this yourself. If you want a really basic way of telling if this experience is resonant with you or if it's in your lifeline, how much can you relax into it? The naturality and the capacity, the ability for you to be able to relax into the experience is a good indicator that it's in your lifeline and that you're highly resonant with it. That doesn't mean that, there's semantics here. Like you could say, well, in that case then heroin would be within your lifeline, right? Because you can take heroin and then you can become incredibly relaxed, or you can do something else like that. Or even saying like watching TV, like a lot of people say, oh, I feel relaxed when I watch TV. And yeah, it's fine to have that kind of relaxation from television, or maybe not heroin, but you get the idea. But notice how, I noticed this actually recently when I try to play video games. I don't really play video games anymore, but when I do, there's kind of like a sense of excitement that comes with playing a video game for me. But I noticed that what it does, it's really peculiar. It's not a centeredness. There's no centeredness in my experience. So there's no centeredness in my experience when I play a video game. If anything, it's almost like I feel like I've been transported out of myself. And it's like I'm just pulled into what's going on. And it transfixes you, right? Like, I played a video game for like half an hour the other day for the first time in ages. Sat down, played it, and I enjoyed like playing a couple matches of, I was playing Team Fortress 2. If you've ever played it, it's one of my favorite video games. And I noticed that it was fun, like it was enjoyable, and it's good in that sense, but there was no centeredness. It's like, I actually notice how I can't really even, I'm not attuned to myself at all. And again, it's not good or bad. It's just that when I actually consider it afterwards, if I was to just ask myself really directly, is this within my lifeline? Do I actually feel like this is an opportunity to know myself better, or to relax more deeply into what I want? The answer is really obviously no. It's not at all. At best, it's just like, it's a time killer and a distraction. But the ability for me to sense that presence, although I can still do it, it's almost like there's a natural pulling away. It's not an opportunity for more centeredness. It's not resonant in that sense. Where I think about what I like, my chosen form of free time spending nowadays is actually just to sit in being. Is to sit outside at night under the stars here in Western Australia. It's really beautiful outside our house. We live rural, so you can see there's not as much light pollution. And just to sit and be under those stars, and to be able to allow the mind and allow the sensations, to allow the emotions, whatever else, to do what it's doing, and allow the world to do what it's doing. There's just a centeredness in that that's really beautiful and really enjoyable. And sometimes it's less, sometimes it's so abundant and so obvious. It's almost just like, why, it just makes everything else look ridiculous. It's like when you have some sort of insight through meditation or a psychedelic, and you're like, why do I do everything else that I do, for God's sakes? Literally, for the sake of God, why do I? Why can I not recognize God? Sometimes it's less obvious. Sometimes it's almost like I'm trying to generate that state, and that counterintuitively, it's just an example that's not really the thing right now. Maybe it's better to watch a TV show or read a novel right now, or do something that's more resonant, or just distract yourself. But generally, when you can do something, when you can create a project, when you can film a YouTube video at 7 o'clock in the morning on Easter Sunday, I believe, right now. Or is Easter tomorrow? I think it's today. And you can feel that centered relaxation in your being. That is a good indicator that there's a lot of resonance there. And there is just an allowing for experience to unfold the way that it needs to. The way that it can, the way that it does. It almost seems ludicrous within the space of your own relaxation. It almost seems ludicrous that you would try to change any of it. Like the notion of once you actually are flowing downstream in your experience, the notion of trying to swim up and swim against it just seems so frivolous. I'm using a lot of words, frivolous and ludicrous. Feeling fancy. Anyway, yeah, that's the whole thing, basically. The whole thing is, to what extent can you relax into your centeredness and to your being? That is the way to tell if something is highly resonant for you or not. If you can't relax more into that centeredness, into that being, then it's probably something that you're striving for. It's probably something you're grasping for. It's something that you're looking for answers outside of yourself for, which is fine, but it's probably not a resonant part of your lifeline, right? It's kind of obvious when you look at it. Because obviously what's most resonant to you is going to be the thing that you're able to take the most relief in. Because it's true. Right? You know when it feels like someone's lying to you? Or there's like that Schrodinger's cat thing where there's ambiguity in a situation, and our mind tends towards equilibrium and holism. Right? It tends towards unity, because that's our nature, really. So if there's disintegrated angles and we're looking at this thing and that thing, and we're trying to hold all that together, we're trying to figure out what's going to happen over here, or is this person lying to me? When you actually know the truth, even if it's not the truth you want to hear, there's kind of a background sense of relief, because you feel that you're in congruence with reality, and there's resonance there, because you know it to be true inside of yourself. And it's the same as your direct experience in being, right? The way to know if this is in your lifeline or this is resonant with you is, are you able to actually know that it's true? And for me, I strongly believe that the instruments in which we're provided to recognize that, namely a physical nature, an emotional nature, a mental nature, cognition, affect, and behavior, right? It's paralleled in any system. In esotericism, they have the different vehicles. They have the koshas in the yogic system. In psychology, there's a basic understanding of how there's different aspects to nature. And if these systems are able to be in a state of enjoyment and calm, then of course that you're resonant with the thing. It's really obvious, right? But it's like we train ourselves not to think like this. We train ourselves to think in terms of, is it going to get me the result? Is it going to be good in this way? Are other people going to? And we get too caught up in all that, but we're not really focused on what's most resonant. Anyway, I had another thing I wanted to say about art and resonance, but we'll save that for another time. I hope you got value out of this. I hope you could sense into what is hopefully being transmitted well. If so, I appreciate you subscribing to the channel, liking the video, sharing this to anyone that you feel like would get value out of it. I hope you're having a beautiful day, and that's me. I'll see you next time.